Hello and welcome to another video. Today I thought we'd have a go at mastering some Northern Lights. First things first though, we've got to get his canvas prepared, and I'm doing this with some liquid clear from the Bob Ross brand. You need to get the canvas wet using a 2-inch brush ideally, so you can get it covered quickly, and you should only use a small amount. So as you can see, I'm just scrubbing the canvas away as hard as I can, and only a tiny little bit will go a very long way. Make sure you cover the entire canvas and you'll see where you've covered it because there'll be a decent deep shine to it. Here's an important tip for you. Use a paper towel and just wipe off any excess that may have built up on the canvas. If you do this anyway, at least you know that you're not going to have too much and your paint is not going to drip away once you get started. Right, so let's get started on these Northern Lights. The very first thing I'm going to do, I'm just using a 2-inch brush and I'm just scrubbing on some phthalo blue from the Bob Ross branded paints. I'm just putting a very thin amount on just to get the canvas covered. You can put this wherever you want in the sky, it just depends what colour you want your lights to be. Using the exact same brush, I've not washed it or anything, I've just gone into a tiny amount of phthalo green this time. And I'm just painting the other side of the canvas in the sky, and then I'll just mix the two together in the middle. You don't want to apply a lot of colour at this stage, you just want a very small amount, so you can only just see it because it's transparent, but once we get the white on, you'll see it pop. And now the magic happens. I'm using a filbert brush. I've loaded it full of white, and I'm just doing basically a curved motion like that. And as you can see, I've only got white paint on these lines, but it's picking up the colour we've just put on underneath. So I'm just going to do 3 lines on this one, just to make it nice and simple so I can show you easier how it works. And then anyway I want the lights to be brighter, I'm just dabbing in just a tiny bit more colour, just above the line. I don't want to go underneath as of yet. I'm just basically adding a bit more colour, just so it gets brighter. Using a 1-inch brush, just take your paint that you've just put on and just pull it up. You want these strokes to all go exactly the same direction. You can go slightly to the side or straight up, but whichever way you go, you want them all to be the same direction. So just lift up. It's a clean dry brush, so every time my hand goes away, I'm cleaning and drying the brush, and I'm just lifting up, literally from the line straight up. Push quite hard, and then if you want, you can turn your brush on its side, and that'll give you some taller bits of light that goes up. Your paint will travel further, basically, like so. And finally, once you've done that, just get your brush and just go straight up all the way through your design, all the way through your lights from the bottom, and keep your brush pressed to the canvas and go all the way to the top. Make sure you regularly dry your brush between each stroke, just so you don't get too much paint underneath where your lights are. Just like so. Using a Bob Ross palette knife, I've loaded it with some brown paint mixed with some blue and crimson, and I'm just going to scrape in a standard mountain shape. I'm not going to try and make a mountain too big on this one, because I'm just showing off the Northern Lights, but I just want a general easy shape of a mountain. So I've just done triangular shape, and now I'm just basically making the body of the mountain and just creating the peaks like so. And just drag that to the side. And then we'll create one more peak at this side. I don't need to use much paint because the canvas is already dark. With a clean knife, I just want to scrape away as much of this excess paint as possible. By doing this, it's going to help the snow, which I'm going to apply next, stick to the mountain basically, and it's not going to all smush into one big blob of colour. Using a clean dry 1-inch brush, I'm just grabbing that mountain underneath. I'm just dragging the paint to the sides. This again removes excess paint, and it just basically fills the mountain out. This is a bonus tip especially for beginners. Take a paper towel after you've done all that and just give it one final wipe underneath just to get rid of any last remaining paint. The pigment will still be in the canvas, but it's just going to get rid of any top layer of paint that's left on, and it's just going to help your snow to break and stick on the mountain so much easier. Just wipe away as much of that paint as you can. Like I say, you don't have to do this, but especially when you're first starting out, it is much easier to get your snow to break, because it is generally one of the harder things I find that people struggle with at first. So using a palette knife again, I've got white paint mixed with a tiny bit of black just to create like a bright grey. Start at the top of the mountain and just drag the knife down. Don't apply any pressure whatsoever. I'm just holding the knife on the neck, basically where the ferrule is. I'm just starting at the top, creating a little roll of paint on the knife, and I'm just dragging that knife down, and the canvas basically will take whatever paint it needs, and then whatever it doesn't need will stay on your knife. And we'll just fill the mountain snow in as you want. You say you can go anywhere you want with the mountain, as long as your white snow goes in one direction and then your mountain snow will go in the other direction. Now I'll just fill out this last remaining peak at this side. As I say, same way, just drag your knife down, no pressure whatsoever, and then that's all sorted and we can start on the shadows. Using the same colour, but I've just added a small amount of phthalo blue to it. Exactly the same technique, we're just going to drag the paint the other way, and this is going to create the shadow side of the peaks. So this is the snow that's on the shadow side. Exactly the same way, I'm not using any pressure whatsoever. I'm getting a small roll of paint on the knife and just dragging it down. You feel free to use the small edge of the knife like I'm doing here, just to fill in any big gaps or anything that you might want to do. I will start on this peak again, no pressure, smaller roll of paint, and just drag it down to the left to meet the other peak. Don't go too far over or it'll all mix together. Just stay in the black part of the mountain. And then finally, the final peak at this side. Most important thing, no pressure, and just drag your knife down. Okay, good. Now we've got that sorted, we're going to create some mist at the bottom of this mountain. I'm going to do that by just using a clean dry 1-inch brush, tap away. I'm only going up about a quarter of the mountain. I'm not going too far up and I'm not tapping too hard. I just want to diffuse what's underneath that little bit just to create some misty looking effect. Make sure you tap it in the same angles as the mountain. So the right side of the mountain I'm going that way, and then where the mountain goes to the left hand side I'm going to tap the brush down the left hand side, left way, as you can see there. Not tapping hard, I'm just creating some mist just to diffuse it. And finally, just to finish the mist off, I'm just using the brush and I'm just brushing up the mountain where I've diffused the paint already, very lightly, and this just gets rid of any visible brush marks that's left, just like so. Then finally, just underneath the mountain, I'm just giving it quick crisscross strokes all the way across, just to basically smooth it out a little bit. Using a fully loaded fan brush covered in black paint, I'm just creating some distant trees underneath the mist of the mountain just by tapping downwards. I'm touching the fan brush onto the canvas, just sliding it down, just to create some distant trees of all different heights. And I'm just going to do these trees all the way to the end, just so it's all filled in nicely. Using the same fan brush with the same colour painting, I've reloaded it and I'm just creating some evergreens. So I'm just tapping in the trunk all the way down, and then I'm going to start at the top of the tree and tap very lightly, just using the corner, and as we come down I'm going to tap in a zigzag motion left and right over the mountain, and it's going to create a nice big evergreen tree that comes in front of all that. The same thing again, we're going to put another tree next to that one, using the same brush and the same colour, just tap a trunk in. I'm going to start at the top, just the corner, tap very lightly, As you come down, you want to tap harder and harder, going left to right to make the limbs bigger, and just work your way down to the bottom of the tree. I'm now going to do the same thing on this side. I'm just going to create some more trees just in the same way, with the same colour and the same brush. If you are enjoying this video, guys, please don't forget to give it a like and a subscribe, and feel free to leave a comment if you've got any questions or anything. I'll be more than happy to answer, and I will get back to each and every one of you as soon as I can. If you do your trees over a mountain and it starts to not stick because you're going over some thick paint, just thin down your tree paint a little bit with a tiny bit of paint thinner, like I've done there. Go back over it and it should cover fine. Using a 1-inch brush loaded with just a small amount of white paint, I'm just going to drag down and create where I think my water will be. So I'm just coming down in straight lines, like so. I've already added some blue and green, same as the Northern Lights, to the bottom of the canvas over the black. So as soon as I add white, it just turns into this bluey greeny colour. I've changed my mind already, so I'm going to start up here, and I'm just going to create water all the way down, and then any land I create or where I want the water to be, I can just cover it up basically. Make sure when you drag the paint down, you're always dragging down in a straight line, straight from top to bottom. No matter whereabouts you go, you're always dragging down in a straight line, like so. And then what you do, after you've done that, to diffuse it, you just come across very lightly, and what that'll do, it'll get rid of the brush marks in the water and give you a shimmering water effect, like a bit of a reflection, as you'll see in a second. And as I said, with the clean dry 1-inch brush, I'm just going to drag across. As the strokes coming down went straight down, these strokes across need to be straight across. No matter where you go, you don't want to drag up or down, you want to be straight across, and that'll give you like a shimmering water reflection. Using the 1-inch brush, and I'm using the same colour as I did the evergreen trees with, I'm just tapping in some bush shapes and some land in the background, like so. I just want to fill it in, just so I've got somewhere to put some bushes and whatnot. And I'm just tapping in, basically I'm trying to decide how much water I want. I don't want a lot of water, so I'm going to create some land going that way, and then I'm going to create some land in a second now on the left hand side, just going that way in a diagonal line, and then I can create some reflections in a second. Using a clean dry 1-inch brush, I'm just going to grab some of that colour and pull it straight down. Like I say, I'm coming down in a diagonal line, but all the strokes, if you notice, are coming straight down. Same on this side, just pull straight down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same brush after I've dried it. I'm just going to go across, just like we did earlier with the water. I'm just going to come across very lightly, just to create some shimmering reflections. Let's put some highlights on these trees. I've got a fan brush, I've just loaded it with white paint, and I've thinned it down with paint thinner because obviously thin paint sticks on top of thick paint. And I'm just tapping in the corner, and I'm making sure that the trees are highlighted on the right hand side, because the mountain tells us that the light is coming from the right. We'll just fill these trees in with this highlight colour. Make sure the paint's nice and thin, that way it'll stick right over the top of the tree. And then the exact same thing on this side. Just nice thin white paint. I've thinned it down with a slight amount of paint thinner, not a lot, just a little bit. And then just tap over the trees. Make sure you leave plenty of dark areas as well. You don't want to fill the entire tree up or it'll just lose its contrast. I almost forgot to highlight this tree I did on the end, but never mind, I've found him. We'll highlight him now. Okay, so using the same thin down white paint, this time on a 1-inch brush, I've loaded it full, I've just tapped it into the colour, and I'm just tapping the brush onto the canvas very, very lightly, because we need, as I say, this white paint to stick on top of the paint we've already got down. And I'm just creating some bush shapes. All I'm doing is tapping the top of the brush down very lightly, and I'm just going in a circular motion left to right. So I'm tapping at 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and then 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, just to create that sort of round effect. And when I'm doing these bushes, if you notice, I'm leaving plenty of dark areas in between them, as you can see. If you look at these bushes, they've all got dark areas in between, and that gives the painting depth, and it stops it from looking flat. Just a couple of big bushes to finish on this left hand side, and then we'll get on to the reflections of the bushes. So all I'm doing here, I've got the same paint on the same brush. I'm just creating some bush reflections by tapping down some more paint just underneath in the water area. They don't have to be exact, but just a general idea, just general white shapes, and then we can turn these into the reflections of the bushes that's just above. Using a clean dry 1-inch brush, just go above that paint. I'm just going to very, very lightly pull down. I'm barely touching at all here. I just want to drag some of the paint down like so in a straight line. The most important thing, you do not want to press down, you're just grazing it very, very lightly. Clean and dry your brush, and then the same as the other reflections we've done, we're going to go across in straight lines. But remembering, we need to apply no pressure whatsoever. I'm just literally grazing over, and that's just going to change the it's going to turn the white paint underneath, and it's going to like blur it a little bit, and it's going to make it look like direct reflections of the bushes just above. Just using a roller brown paint on the palette knife, I just want to create some land in between the reflections and the bushes, so the bushes have got something to sit on. And I'm just dragging the paint just from right to left in the direction where I want the land to be, and I'm just creating a small amount of paint. Just as I've come closer to the end of the canvas, I'm getting it bigger, just so it looks like it's coming closer to us. Same on the other side, just a roll of brown paint, that's the only brown I'm using, and I'm just dragging it across just to create a bit of land area. Using some white paint that's going to represent some snow, I'm just going to go over this brown paint I've just used very lightly, just drag it across, and it's just going to look like snow on top of the land. You don't want to press down at all, you just want to basically get a roll of white paint on your knife and just very lightly graze it across, just like you're putting snow on the mountain. Come across, and it's just going to create some nice white snow effect with the paint. Then finally, just on the palette knife, I've just got a thin amount of liquid white Bob Ross oil paint. I'm just creating some water lines. It's very thin paint this. I've got a very small roll like before, and I'm just dragging it across, pressing down quite hard just to create the water lines. Just put the lines wherever you want, but just make sure wherever you put them, you're going across in a straight line. They don't want to be going diagonal, or the water will look like it's going to come out of your painting. And just so you know guys, all the equipment I've used in this painting, the brushes, the paints and everything, will all be in the video description. Okay, I think we'll call that one finished guys. I think it's fair to say that we've pretty much mastered the Northern Lights. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've enjoyed the video, like I said, do give it a like and subscribe. Leave any comments that you wish, and I'll try to answer them as soon as I can for you. Feel free to have a go. All the equipment and paints I've used are in the video description, so let me know how you get on.